We are a quick-witted bunch this evening. So my next introduction is for our general evaluator for the evening. Barbara Walters, will you tell us about your role and introduce us to your team?
Thank you. Greetings, Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters. This is also my first time in this role. The purpose of the general evaluator is to evaluate everything that takes place throughout the meeting. During the meeting, I will take notes on everything that happens and doesn't happen. I will evaluate each participant on the meeting program and look for good examples of preparation, organization, delivery, enthusiasm, observation, and performance of duties. At the end of our meeting, I will give my report. Our first evaluator tonight is Christina Stepper. Can you please explain your role this evening and who you will be evaluating?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Yes, this evening it is my pleasure to evaluate Jackie's speech. Jackie is doing a speech in the leadership track, understanding your leadership style. The purpose of her project is for Jackie to identify her primary leadership style or styles, and to share some aspect of her primary leadership style or discuss leadership styles in general. She is free to use humor or any other style she chooses. Her speech will be 5 to 7 minutes. I will share my thoughts on her speech when called upon to do so. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Christina. Our second evaluator tonight is Kathleen McNulty. Kathleen, can you please explain your role this evening and who you will be evaluating?
Yes, thank you. I have the great pleasure of evaluating Lloyd's speech. Lloyd is a practice speech maker. It's always wonderful to be able to evaluate him. He is going to be doing a level 3 Connect with Storytelling project. And the purpose of his speech tonight is to practice using a story within a speech. His speech will be 5 to 7 minutes long. And I will be looking for some tips. He shared with me information about what his goals are with that speech. I'll be providing him my opinion of how he did once he is finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Our timer tonight is Mary Sire. I hope I said that right. Mary, could you please explain why we time our speeches, please?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I'd be happy to. We time our speeches anytime anyone is speaking in an established role in a Toastmaster meeting. We have limits, the minimum and the maximum that they should be speaking. That way, the meeting, although it may or may not begin on time, we can ensure that it will end on time. First of all, I will time the speakers. Both speakers' speeches are 5 to 7 minutes. At 5 minutes, I will hold up the green color, 6 minutes, the yellow color, and 7 minutes, the red flag comes up, and it's time to wrap it up. Evaluators have 2 to 3 minutes to evaluate the speech. At 2 minutes, I will hold up the green folder, 2.5 minutes, the yellow folder, and at 3 minutes, the red comes up. Likewise for table topics, which last 1 to 2 minutes, 1 minute, minute and a half, and 2 minutes. I will report the timings at the end of the meeting. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Mary. Our grammarian tonight is Steve Schwind, but I don't see Steve.
I'm going to step in for Steve.
Okay. Our grammarian tonight is Kathleen McNulty. Kathleen, can you please explain your role and introduce the word of the day?
Yes, thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Tonight I will be performing the grammarian light role. It's a new role that I've just created. In that role, I will announce the word of the day and do my best to keep track of it. I will take note of any remarkable, very remarkable statements by anyone in the group. I am evaluating Lloyd. That will be my top priority, but I will do my best. Here is the word of the day. Auspicious, meaning conducive to success or favorable. It's an adjective. I could say, I think it's very auspicious that Jackie does not have any competition in her speech this Saturday. That bodes a good outcome. I will put the word in the chat box. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Kathleen. Our all counter tonight is Pat Whitfield. Pat, can you please explain the role of the all counter?
Well, my role is to be the resident nitpicker. I'll be looking for all those little annoying phrases, noises, and sounds that disrupt the flow of the language, like well, so, like, and so on. I'll be looking for malapropisms, ways of misusing language or using it inappropriately. And I, as I said, get to be the resident nitpicker. That's my role.
Thank you, Patricia. I will now send the meeting back over to our Toastmaster, Selena. Thank you.
You're muted, Selena.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. It is auspicious that this evening, as I preside over the Toastmasters meeting for the first time, that two veteran speakers will grace us with their speaking style this evening. Our first speaker is Jackie Graybill. The title of her speech is 4 Shades of Graybill Leadership. The way she describes her speech is as follows. Jackie's leadership style resembles the walls of someone who couldn't decide on their paint color. So they had the paint department person at Lowe's mix up 4 different, though complementary shades. Welcome to the wall of Jackie's leadership style. Take it away, Jackie.
There we go. I'm unmuted now. The title of this is 4 Shades of Graybill Leadership. Wah, 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 wah. When I took this test, and this is the first time I've taken the leadership test, I got 4 leadership styles. 2 of them tied at 20 points, and another 2 came in second at first one was 21 points, and the second 2 came in at 20 points. That is a lot of different styles. But as I started digging into them, I realized they are really very complementary. And 3 of the biggest aspects of these are positivity, creativity, and something that I can't remember. So I'll just take you through all 4. The first one is affiliative. Say that fast 5 times. This focuses on harmony and it avoids conflicts. And in order to achieve that atmosphere, it really focuses on the emotional needs of the particular people that are on that team. I've talked about the Enneagram before, and I'm an Enneagram 9. Enneagram 9s, their big thing is peace, and they hate conflict. So this makes absolute sense that my top leadership style would be affiliative. Second is coaching. I guess I'm on the right pathway because this is the coaching pathway, effective coaching. This one focuses a lot on one-on-one exchanges, a positive atmosphere, and developing the potential of each person that you work with. This makes a lot of sense because I've been a piano teacher for 21 years, hence a lot of one-on-one time with students, bringing out their potential. And it strikes me that the positive atmosphere is something I really worked on to maintain. And has anybody taken piano lessons or had your kids take piano lessons? Yep. So as you know, there are a lot of bum notes when you're learning an instrument, right? A lot of bum notes. So in order to develop that potential, what I had to do was create an atmosphere of positivity where if they hit a wrong note, it wasn't, oh, you hit a wrong note, you're bad. Like the old teachers who used to wrap the hands of their kids with rulers. No, that was not me at all. So I used humor to make it funny. And one thing that I would sometimes do if the kid was really tense and they'd made a mistake is I would say, I'm sorry, that is incorrect. Please try again. And they would giggle at this and laugh, and the tension would release. And then they would be able to start over, realizing that if they made a mistake, that was okay because that's part of learning. Next is the altruistic style. This values listening and is highly empathic, paying attention to the individual needs of the people on the team. When I was in my 20s, I was a Bible study leader every week, and I would have 15 girls in that group. We would go over questions that they had studied for the previous week. And each year would be a new batch of 15 girls. So we get to know some of them and have a whole new batch to get to know. And empathy and listening were huge in this environment, especially when it came to questions that were factual. So what would happen when somebody said, oh yeah, I think we're studying Genesis. Yeah, the answer to how many days did it take for God to create the universe or the earth? If somebody, for example, said, oh, 2 days, and it was a very clear cut, oh yeah, 7 days or 6 plus he rested. Instead of saying, oh, I'm sorry, that's not correct, you got it wrong, what I would do is I would tell them, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate you stepping out of your comfort zone to answer. Are there any other answers that anybody got? So it was a very collaborative, very welcoming environment. And then other people, when they realized, oh, that wasn't quite right, they could give a different answer. And it was a positive environment where people loved to share. Lastly, innovative. This is futuristic focused on goals and creations, and it encourages creative ideas. This one's also very collaborative and it values risk taking. After one of my speeches, Eric said, Jackie, I know every speech that you give, it's going to be out of the box. That's where that innovative leadership style comes from. In fact, today was a little difficult because I was thinking, how can I make this outside of the box? And paint was as far as I got. It has been very fun to see how these leadership styles work together. The positivity, the creativity, and the last one, which I just remembered, was empathy, which goes along with my Strengths Finder strengths. Actually, it's amazing how everything works together, just like these 4 complementary styles. It doesn't have to be just one. It's more fun when you have more aspects. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
struggling to unmute myself this evening. Thank you, Jackie. That was wonderful. Timer, but can we have 1 minute?
There's 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Timer. Please send all of your thoughts to Jackie on her speech. I feel like we've painted the town with her delightful personality. And our next speech is Lloyd Smith. The title of his speech is The One and Only. And his introduction is as follows. There's an old sports cliche, records are made to be broken. And sure enough, we hear about record-breaking performances all the time. But that raises an obvious question. Will every record eventually be broken? Or are there some that will stand forever? This evening for Connect with Storytelling, one of the elective projects in level 3 of the Effective Coaching Path, Lloyd Smith will tell the story of one sports record that almost certainly will stand forever and the immortal athlete who set it. Take it away, Lloyd Smith.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. There was once a time when baseball was America's national sport. It was closely followed by hundreds of thousands of semi-nerdy kids, including me. Years after I lost my semi-nerdy fascination with baseball, a player set a record that has stood for over 40 years and will never be broken. Who is that immortal player who holds the record? Babe Ruth, maybe? Mickey Mantle? Hank Aaron? Nope, Rusty Torres. Right now, you're probably thinking, who? Torres played for 9 seasons and retired without any particular distinction at all. So how did a completely average player manage to set an unbreakable record? Let's take a look at the 3 baseball games that made Rusty Torres into a baseball legend. It's September 30th, 1971, the last day of the season, and the mediocre Washington Senators are leading the Yankees in their final game. And it is literally the team's final game. They would leave town to become the Texas Rangers the next season, and the fans were in a surly mood. Torres was the Yankees' last hope to get a rally started. As he walked to the plate, a naked fan jumped the wall, ran onto the field, grabbed first base, and ran off with it. That seemed to signal thousands of angry fans to storm the field and begin tearing up the bases, the infield grass, and even the dirt from the base paths. Torres and the other players ran for their lives, followed closely by the frightened security guards and umpires, who forfeited the game to the Yankees. That was actually a minor thing compared to 3 years later when 10-cent beer night happened. It's June 4th, 1974, and the mediocre Cleveland Indians decided to attract more fans to the game against the Texas Rangers with 10-cent beers, unlimited 10-cent beers. What could possibly go wrong? Rusty Torres was on second base in position to score the winning run when that question was answered. The crowd of 25,000 had been drinking those 10-cent beers for hours, and they were completely out of their minds. A naked man sprinted onto the field and ran the base paths, while a father and son pair ran into the outfield and mooned the fans. After a Rangers player fell down trying to get his hat back from a fan. His teammates ran out to defend him. They were immediately surrounded by a big group of drunks, some armed with knives, chains, and pieces of stadium seats that they had torn apart. The Cleveland players grabbed bats and ran out to defend the Rangers. The two teams fought for their lives, wildly swinging bats at the fans as they retreated to the clubhouse. Then the fans trashed the stadium and the umpires forfeited the game to Texas. That was actually a mild precursor to Disco Demolition Night 5 years later. It's July 12th, 1979, and Rusty Torres of the mediocre Chicago White Sox is running out to his right field position to begin the second game of a doubleheader with the Detroit Tigers, just in time to be caught up in a misguided promotional stunt. The White Sox were staging Disco Demolition Night in cooperation with a local rock radio station to attract a crowd. Fans got in for half price if they brought a disco record to put into a big box to be blown up between the two games. However, the box was too small, and once it overflowed, most of the stands took their records to their seats with them. More than 59,000 people packed the stadium, with another 15,000 milling around outside. When the DJ set off the explosives, destroying the records and tearing a big hole in the outfield grass, an estimated 10,000 howling fans rushed onto the field, and the players ran for their lives. Fans climbed the foul poles and tore them down. They set piles of records on fire. They ripped up the outfield grass, and then they started fighting each other like maniacs. The fans who remained in the stands began hurling their disco records like razor-sharp frisbees out onto the field. Hundreds of people suffered injuries. It took 25 Chicago cops in riot gear over an hour to quell the mob. Because the field was unplayable, the White Sox had to forfeit the game. As Woody Allen once said, 80% of success is just showing up. That's what Rusty Torres did. He was the only player in baseball history who was on the field during all of the major league games that have been forfeited due to fan rioting. That's the one and only baseball record that has not been and cannot be broken. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lloyd. I'm on the edge of my broken seat after that one. What a great speech. That was amazing. Can we have 1 minute, please, from the timer?
One minute.
Okay, everyone, please send their evaluation points to Lloyd. And next, I would like to turn the conversation over to Eric Stepper, who's stepping up as table topics master this evening. Eric, you're up.
Thank you, Selena. Table topics is a point in the meeting where we get to practice our extemporaneous speaking, which is probably what we do more day to day anyway, and conversing with our neighbors and our family and our coworkers. We are able to take the topic of the evening, which is nothing to fear but fear itself, and for 1 to 2 minutes, try and come up with a succinct beginning, middle, and end. And you just take your time and take a big deep breath and try and organize your thoughts. The object is to be comfortable in this space and comfortable in the silence. You can make stuff up. You can take another question. There are no real rules, but to challenge yourself, try and answer the question I ask. Everybody here has a duty, and people like Kathleen have 4 or 5. So we'll just see how we go with this. Nothing to fear but fear itself, and the word of the day is auspicious. This pandemic, what fear has come to the surface that has surprised you? This pandemic, what fear has come to the surface that has surprised you? Mary.
I think I can time myself. I had a conversation with my good buddy Cynthia, who lives in Seattle, and we talked about this exact topic. What is the new fear that's risen up in these past few weeks that I didn't think would ever exist? My fear is that I won't feel like coming out of this pandemic shelter that we are all in these days. What if I forget how to have one-on-one conversations or even one-to-many conversations with people? What if I'm happy just being at home? What if I don't feel like traveling over the mountains to go to Bellingham or down to Portland to see family and friends? How weird would that be? What if I just don't want to do it? Cynthia is a very good friend, and I can tell her anything and feel safe about it. And when I got done with my fear that I never thought I would have, she said, "Mary, you're echoing just what I've been feeling too." Cynthia is single. She has a nice little house in North Seattle, knows all of her neighbors, but she says, I too have been quite content being at home. I get lonely sometimes, but I just soldier through it. And it's actually been a rather auspicious occasion. What if I don't want to come out of my pandemic dark shelter? What if I'm happy the way I am and I've discovered a new way of life for myself? We concluded our conversation by agreeing that now that we've said it out loud, we won't go there. The fear is over now. It rose up, had a plateau, we expressed it, and now it seems to be going away. But I was surprised that I felt that way. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
That's very interesting because I'm totally comfortable with these Toastmaster meetings on Zoom. And I'm just wondering if that was an issue of mine. I have a men's group and they're all wanting to get together. I'm going, I don't have to leave the house. So interesting. What is your most recent nightmare? What is your most recent nightmare, Jackie?
My most recent nightmare. Oh, this is a funny one. I dreamed that my sister had joined a Toastmasters group and they were meeting in person. And they met back to back on 2 different days. And she said, okay, come with me this certain day. And I was really excited. And then I got there and I thought, wait, what was the speech that I was doing again? And I didn't remember it because I got distracted, because who should be there but my abusive ex-husband? And I could totally tell by the back of his head, and he was sitting there with his new family, which I don't even think he has. But I was so thrown off by it that I thought, you know what? Should I do my contest speech where I talk about him? And then I thought, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do it. And I'm just going to look at him when I say those things, and I'm going to do it. So, and then I woke up. That was my nightmare.
Very good. how are you managing your fears here in Toastmasters? How are you managing your fears here in Toastmasters with possible speeches or roles or table topics? Selena.
Thank you, Table Topics Master, for turning the table back over to me. Managing my fears. There is a saying in athletics that you can lean into your fears and use that adrenaline in your favor. I have an example of that. There's a thing called a controller that controls how much physical effort your body is allowed to use up, because you always want to save a little bit in reserve just in case that mountain lion jumps on you and you need to escape it. But you can trick that controller to perform superhuman feats of strength. An example of this is a world-class bicyclist who is also a veteran from a war in Croatia. His team, with his permission, was told that when he got to the very extremes of exertion, and he was on his bicycle and they were on roads, that they were supposed to hit mailboxes, make it sound like he was at war again. So he got to the point where he was so exhausted that he just didn't feel like he could put out any more effort. He was starting to hallucinate. And that was when his team stepped in. They started hitting mailboxes and making all of these crazy sounds. And he goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm being attacked." And they said, "Yes, you are." And he took off and he made the fastest time ever for his 20 miles. So for me, I try to lean into the fear. I'm not always successful, but sometimes it helps. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Excellent, excellent. Can fear be healthy? Can fear be healthy, Pat?
I think fear can be healthy, because if one confronts one's fear and overcomes that fear, you've made a giant step forward in life. You've expanded your belief in yourself. You've conquered something that you might have thought was unconquerable. I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. Thank you.
So you are very cool cookie. Nothing seems to ruffle you, but what is the most scared you've ever been, Lloyd? What is the most scared you've ever been?
That's an interesting question, Mr. Table Topics Master. The most scared I have ever been. I don't scare very easily, and that's not necessarily a good thing. There are times when it's a good idea to be scared, like when that mountain lion is jumping out of the bush at you. But I tend to respond to any kind of a threat by trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to get around this or past it or through it or whatever, as opposed to, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because when you're saying, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? You're not doing anything. You're not preparing for it or anything. I think if I had to probably the most scared I've ever been, at least in a physical sense, was way back when I was still in college. I was working for my dad, and he was building houses back then. I was walking along a plywood roof that I was sheathing with other sheets of plywood, and I had a hunk of plywood in my hand. I stepped on some sawdust, and I was wearing shoes that had a flat sole, and I started just kind of like roller skating or off the building. And I thought, this is really going to be bad. And I had the good sense to let go of the piece of plywood. So I landed on the dirt without getting hurt or without getting cut in half by a hunk of plywood. But when I got up, the adrenaline kind of drained away. And I thought, that's one of the dumbest things you've ever done. Don't do that again. And I guess that's how I tend to deal with fear, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Good job. I still have recurring nightmares, and I'm at high school and I'm in the hall and I'm naked and I can't remember my combination. And I'm just standing back naked trying to, and that still happens to me. What is your reoccurring nightmare? What is your reoccurring nightmare, Kathleen?
Oh, gosh. My reoccurring nightmare, I can tell you about the theme. I'm not sure if I can come up with any specifics because my brain is a sieve and I forget them almost instantly. The theme of all of my recurring nightmares are trying to get somewhere and constantly having an obstacle come in my way and not be able to get there. It could be traveling to an event, or it could be trying to accomplish something. But effort after effort is stymied by something. I shared that with my son the other day, and he looked at me and he says, well, that makes sense. He didn't give me any other information. My guess is that it says a lot about me, either constantly trying to achieve something and always wanting to do more and more, or worse, maybe I'm feeling trapped in something or someplace. I decided I didn't really want to get any more information from him. I could save this conversation for a professional and do it later. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Kathleen. Some people are afraid of spiders and some people are afraid of snakes, and there's all kinds of different fears. What are you most afraid of, Barbara?
What am I most afraid of? Thank you, Table Topics Master. That is a great question. What am I most afraid of? Well, I could pick an easy route and say I'm afraid of moths. My sister's afraid of butterflies. So it's really interesting. I think what I am most afraid of is being separated from family. My family's very close. My mom, in fact, lives with me. She's lived with me for quite some time, actually. So we've always made room in our home for her. Our family is also lives very close to each other. My son recently moved to Kansas, and my other son just got a job and moved to, you guessed it, Kansas. I don't know what Kansas has against me. But my fear is being away from my family and being away from my boys. But I will say that I've done a great job as my husband with raising these boys so that they can move away from home and be very successful. Thank you, Table Topics Master.
Very good. This has been an auspicious evening for Table Topics. Everybody had a role. Everybody stepped right into it and did an excellent job. Thank you for your efforts. I will now turn it over to Miss Toastmaster, Miss Selena.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. We've now come to that auspicious part of the evening when our evaluators get to talk about how well we did, or maybe made a few mistakes in our speaking this evening. Turning the conversation over to you, Barbara Walters.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. We have now come to the evaluation portion of our meeting. This is an extremely important part of our meeting as it provides the speakers who gave prepared speeches tonight with instantaneous feedback from their fellow Toastmaster members. The purpose of the evaluation is to give both positive comments and suggestions for improvement. Hopefully, each speaker will feel encouraged by aspects of their speech that went well and motivated to make their speeches even better for the next time. My role as general evaluator is to introduce the individual evaluators for each speaker. I will also share some of my observations of the overall quality of the meeting. Now I would like to call on our first evaluator, Christina, to evaluate Jackie's speech.
Madam General Evaluator, I will share with Jackie my personal observations of her speech. She will also appreciate hearing from each of you, as your observations may very well be different from mine. As I said, these are merely my observations. There's no right or wrong in what I see or perceive, or in any of Jackie's speech for that matter. Your introduction was excellent, very creative. It left me intrigued about the speech. That's a great thing for an introduction to do. Clearly, we knew where you were headed before you began speaking. Good use of that tool. It is auspicious that you have 4 leadership styles. That in itself was interesting to me. You did a great job of defining those 4, giving personal examples with stories of how you see each of those in specific situations. I would like to have heard how you've seen all 4 come together in a situation. When you talked about them being complementary, it would have been fun to hear how you see them being complementary. You were very wise to change backgrounds at the beginning. I saw your face and then it was dark everywhere because of the paneling. So that was a very smart move before you even got started, to recognize that the background was not going to be conducive. Your gestures, your pauses, vocal variety, facial expressions were all excellent, as usual. You do so well there. Another thing I would have liked to hear is how many leadership styles there are. You mentioned that 4 of them, just to hear, out of the 8 possible leadership styles, 4 of them seem to rise, something like that, to give us an idea of what that looks like. And another interesting thing might have been how this compares to what you learned through the Enneagram evaluation. Is it consistent? How is it consistent? How is it inconsistent? Not really anything to do with the structure or delivery of your speech, just a couple things that might have been interesting for the audience. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you for the opportunity to share my observations.
Oops. Thank you. Next, I have Kathleen as my evaluator for Lloyd's speech. Kathleen.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. It was very auspicious that Lloyd started out a story about baseball. He knows I love baseball. This must be why I was selected to be the evaluator. Right away, he grabbed my attention. He also did some other things that were listed in what he was trying to do in his storytelling effort. One of them was empathy and shared experience. Even if you didn't enjoy baseball, there were plenty of things in the speech that you could learn about. I mean, any of us can relate to a 10-cent beer. We can relate to naked men running across the field, fields being destroyed. we could all share that experience, and it was very vivid. Emotional response. Did he elicit emotional response? Yes. Mostly humor. We were all laughing. We thought it was quite amusing. And disbelief. So you hit the ball out of the park, I guess it would be on that one too. Descriptive language. Your language was phenomenally descriptive. The surly mood of the fans, the battle on the field, the records being flung as sharp objects onto the field, the umpires running into the dugout. All of that was very descriptive, really captured our attention. The fourth and final special, I guess, storytelling attribute had to do with introduction, conflict, and action. And I would compliment you here because you told 3 stories in a story, but you had a beginning and an ending that connected them all together. And it was clear at the beginning, it was clear at the end how they were connected together. Another item that I would share is you had almost no filler words. I never heard any. There may have been some. We'll find out later. You had good eye contact. 1 or 2 things I would say in terms of this speech, which I found remarkably entertaining, is it was very fast. You could pace it and put some pauses in various places to create a little more suspense. Overall, though, very, very entertaining. The one other thing, and it's our Zoom thing, and I'm doing it right now, so I can demonstrate what we could improve on is your hand gestures were just a little bit below the picture most of the time. And that is such a hard thing to do on Zoom, I find. I really enjoyed it. I loved the topic. It was very entertaining. I'll remember all 3 of those stories. I'll go back and look them up. Thank you for sharing with us, Lloyd.
Thank you, Kathleen. Now I'd like to call on our timer, Mary, to give us her timer's report.
Thank you, Barbara. Here we go. Good job tonight, by the way. And everyone was a speaker tonight. And everyone did a good job. Jackie, 6 minutes, 34 seconds. Lloyd, your speech was 5 minutes, 2 seconds. Table topics, I was exactly 2 minutes. Timing yourself is kind of fun. Jackie, you were 1 minute, 20 seconds. Selena, 1 minute, 46 seconds. Pat, 33 seconds. Lloyd, 1 minute, 40 seconds. Kathleen, 1 minute, 28 seconds. And Barbara, 1 minute, 27 seconds. Evaluators, Christina, 3 minutes, 10 seconds. Kathleen, 2 minutes, 55 seconds. Over to you, Barbara.
Thank you, Mary. I would like to call on our grammarian, Kathleen, to give us her report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. The word of the day was auspicious. I will report how many times I heard it and then ask for volunteers to tell me if they said it and I missed it. I heard Selena use it twice. Jackie used it once. Mary Syrie used it once. Eric once. Christina once. I used it once. Did I miss anyone? That is the extent of my report tonight.
Thank you, Kathleen. I will now like to call on our counter, Pat Whitfield, to give her report. Thank you.
This was a most auspicious evening in that there were not a whole lot of filler words used. However, and was the champion filler word tonight. Kathleen used it 3 times. Lloyd used it twice. Jackie used it 3 times. And Selena used it once. As for other filler words, Jackie had 1 and 2 so's. Selena had a so. Barbara had two butts, but one was a filler and the other one was the concluding, leading us right into her conclusion. So I'm not counting that as a filler word. I thought it, da, 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 but it was done so nicely. So I think it was really auspicious. Good talking, speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Well, this has been a great evening. We had a great team. Thank you. And a special thank you to Kathleen for stepping in at the last minute to be our grammarian. I will now turn the meeting back over to Madam Toastmaster Selena.
And this is a great relay effort. I'm going to pass it right on over to Jackie Graybill as our president for the evening.
Thank you, Selena, as our toast madam, and Barbara as our general evaluator. Both very, very well done tonight. Let's go ahead and send our votes for speaker of the evening to Mary privately. And while we're doing that, I wanted to mention that next week we are going to have a open house. It'll be a normal meeting, but we may have people from around the district or the Washington area joining us. So it probably would be an awesome idea if we could fill up our speaking roster. I'm just throwing that out there. I can go ahead and sign up, but if you all would,
I'll do one.
Yay, Kathleen! Woo! Okay, fantastic.
I can start dreading it from now for the next 7 days.
Yay, yay, way to jump in there, Kathleen. Excellent.
Nothing but
Yeah, it's my positivity leadership style.
Here is our topic, so it seems appropriate.
That's perfect, perfect, perfect. Fantastic. If anybody else would like to jump in with a speech, you are more than welcome. Hopefully we'll have some visitors and it will be a really, really fun evening. Mary, did you have a winner for us?
Yes, I do. I also want to say that 3 votes went in for table topic speakers. So that's
Oh, yeah.
people for remembering that. But the speaker of the night is Lloyd Smith.
Yay.
I thank all the little people for making it possible,
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
I look forward to the day when we can all laugh out loud at, because I was sure laughing at yours.
It was very lively and fun indeed, Lloyd. Speaking of Lloyd, do you have anything else to mention? I know we have our area contest this Saturday, but I don't know if that's necessarily open to everybody.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But I don't know, unfortunately, I don't know any of the details, like where the Zoom link is. Sooner or later, they have to tell me because I'm the event Toastmaster, but when I do, I'll pass it on to everybody. Jackie is competing from our club and will advance to the division contest because it appears that she's the only competitor from our area, A1, in international speech. So that would be good to see. And then Mary, aren't you also judging? That's supposed to be a secret, by the way. The judges are anonymous, so pretend that you don't know that. And then, yeah. Anyway, that'll be. I think it's going to Saturday morning, and I think they're planning to start around 9-ish or so, and it's going to be pretty quick because there aren't very many competitors. But I'll pass that Zoom link on if you want to log in and take a look at that. The other thing is, Eric, how are we doing on dues?
What is the pandemic? Do we need 8 to?
Yeah.
Okay. I will. I've got quite a few of them there. I don't think we have 8 yet. I'm going to total them up and I'll send it out. But if you haven't given your dues yet, mail them in, please.
Yeah.
I'll put our
Please do.
address in the chat again.
Yeah. and I will put it in my email tomorrow as well. We need 8 by the, by the end of the next week, or no, by the middle of next week, the
Right.
end of March, 1st of April.
Okay.
So this is important for Jackie because she has to not only be a member in good standing, she has to be from a club in good standing. So if we lapse in our dues, then Jackie's disqualified from future contests. Okay, so we don't want to do that.
No, we don't want to do that.
Yeah, unless you don't like Jackie, in which case hold off on your dues, right?
That's a great plug, Lloyd. By the way, it's the international contest and the humorous contest on
Humorous.
Saturday.
I
Fantastic.
don't think, as far as I know, nobody is entering humorous, which I completely understand. I don't see how that one could be done without the
Yeah.
ability to interact with an audience.
Yeah.
I wouldn't enter if it were online myself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's going to be fun. We are 2 minutes over, Mary. Are you starting to shake? No. All right.
Eating without me.
Good night, everybody.
Such
Yep.
an
See you
enjoyable
guys.
meeting. We'll see you, if not on Saturday, next Monday for the open house.